Hey guys, this video is about why rabbits are overlooked as pets. Feel free to correct me if I get any information wrong, and also feel free to let me know if I forgot any information. Rabbits are overlooked as pets. There's no denying that. The fact that people get so surprised when they find out I have a rabbit should speak for itself. People probably wouldn't be surprised if I had a dog or a cat, but a rabbit, people having rabbits as pets is so rare that having one will likely give you social status, especially if you had one while you were, or if you are still in high school or university, or the workplace. If you can get social status and people get so intrigued, then that must mean rabbits are unusual pets. But why is that? To answer that question, we must evaluate why people get rabbits in the first place and why getting a rabbit can be a massive disaster. People doing their research before getting a rabbit and knowing what to do and knowing what they're taking on is a good thing. It shows responsibility on their part. But there have been plenty of parents who get rabbits for their kids on Easter thinking that rabbits are cute animals, which they are, but the problem stems in those same parents getting a rabbit because they think that their rabbit is going to want to be hugged, picked up, and played with all the time. Then they get rid of the rabbit after a week when they realize how big of a commitment rabbits really are. The ways that they might get rid of rabbits is by putting them up for adoption or abandoning them. Regardless of how much they get rid of them, this scenario is a huge problem. The same irresponsible parents who did this likely had no prior experience with rabbits at all. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have people who think that rabbits need to be kept in small hutches all the time. Many people who are over 50 years old now who had rabbits as a kid likely had pet rabbits that were kept in small hutches all the time because of their parents. 40 years ago and above, information wasn't as accessible as it is now, and there were many misconceptions regarding how people should take care of rabbits. A lot of information about how to take care of rabbits 40 years ago and above would likely be outdated now. For example, I have a book from about 30 years ago about rabbits, and it was full of outdated information that people were misguided to believe back then, which should prove how much rabbit care has evolved since then. We got the book secondhand, and it likely isn't sold officially anymore. The rabbits that were in the book all looked overweight to the point that it was concerning. Most people, even if they have never even had rabbits, would likely still think that they're cute, spoken most accurately by how much social status someone having a rabbit can give them in school or in the workplace. But even those same people probably wouldn't know enough about rabbits to be able to take care of them. There are also many people who have rabbits but don't take care of them properly, perhaps by keeping them in small cages all the time. And in cases like this, they probably shouldn't have a rabbit in the first place. There are lots of people who hunt, eat, and overall treat rabbits like food. Rabbit is meat to some people. To be clear, it is okay to keep rabbits for the purpose of turning them into meat, but it is a slightly different hobby than keeping a rabbit to take care of for the long run until they die of old age. The other reason is because of people that know about rabbits and how big of a commitment they are, but choose not to have them. The same people that fit into this category would likely be the same people who are 50 years old or above now who had rabbits as a kid. People who don't have rabbits but still know a lot about them may also know someone else that has rabbits but don't have rabbits themselves. While the same people who eat rabbits and treat them like meat can have rabbits as pets for the long run, it only makes sense that people who eat rabbits wouldn't have rabbits as pets to keep in the long run typically. For example, if someone who is a hunter or a farmer keeps 5 rabbits and plans to turn 4 of them into meat but keeps one for himself to not turn into meat, wouldn't it be upsetting for that one rabbit who is going to lose all of their friends? Now, of course, people who eat rabbits as meat might not turn rabbits into meat themselves. They could just buy it canned. And in this case, it is very possible for someone who eats rabbits to simultaneously have rabbits as pets in the long run. And some people may think that rabbits are significantly boring compared to typical pets. And the answer to this is if rabbits are kept in small hutches or cages all of the time, this would be true. However, if rabbits have a good amount of space to free roam, People tend to learn that rabbits couldn't be further from being boring, and in fact, I would argue that having rabbits, at least for me, has been a way more memorable experience than it would have been for any other pets. And this isn't only because it has given me a lot of social status and helped me start conversations with people, it is because of how unique and special rabbits really are. Most people are too busy having other animals that are probably more easier to take care of compared to rabbits that are typical house pets. And for some people, getting a rabbit may have never even crossed their mind in the first place. I mentioned earlier that people may get rabbits without doing research and think they are cute and want to be cuddled all the time. Another thing that people may also picture when they get a rabbit is that rabbits don't take a whole lot of effort to take care of. And then they discover that rabbits are quite the commitment. I got Sandy in June of 2020. We were considering getting a rabbit in 2016. I don't know if my parents said this or not, or if it was just something I pictured. It could be either or both, but in 2016 I pictured having a rabbit put in a room in my basement or in my shed. I never would have pictured that 4 years later at the time, we not only got a rabbit, but free-roamed her in my front room. Most people who don't have rabbits likely won't know much about them. This isn't always necessarily true, but it often is. My mother had a few rabbits as a kid. They were kept in hutches and then let into her house sometimes. Unlike some irresponsible people, before we got a rabbit, we somewhat knew what we were taking on, and even if we didn't, we were more than happy to adapt for a rabbit, and still are today. We were able to do this because there are no small children living in our house. However, if a parent gets a rabbit and has small children, they may not be able to adapt for a rabbit, and they probably shouldn't have a rabbit in the first place. Every person who is a rabbit owner today has made mistakes. That is inevitable. However, it is how you go about these mistakes, and if you are able to adapt for a rabbit and give them a good amount of space, even if that wasn't your plan originally, that matters. It is better that a rabbit eventually goes to a good home compared to being miserable, locked in a cage all of the time, or being abandoned. As much as I love Sandy and rabbits in general, I'm not going to pretend like having Sandy isn't a sacrifice. Of course it is, and the same can be said for all rabbits. Most people, or at least a lot of people, use the phrase rabbit hole. Of course, most people who say this probably don't have any experience or know anything about rabbits, and when they say this phrase, they are referring to rabbits living in burrows underground in the wild, not as house pets. But it's still interesting to think about how many people technically mention rabbits and how rabbits are technically in the conversation, but the same people who say it in casual conversation won't necessarily have the experience of having one. And it's not like people don't know that rabbits exist. Take Bugs Bunny, for example, a cartoon character that is a rabbit that has been well known for decades. And even amongst the young generation, Bugs Bunny is still well known because of the Big Chungus meme. For those who don't know, Big Chungus is a fat Bugs Bunny. For the longest time, and probably even now to some extent, rabbits have been promoted and made out to be easy animals to start with, but then people learned the hard way that couldn't be further from the truth. I have never owned a dog or a cat full-time myself. However, I know lots of people that have dogs and cats, and I have taken care of dogs and cats temporarily before. I have enough experience with dogs to say this, and it's not that other animals don't have unique personalities, but I have found that Sandy has a personality that is just as interesting and unique as some other animals that I am familiar with. So while rabbits are prey animals, and a lot of typical house pets like dogs or cats are predators, cats can be around the same size as rabbits, and cat owners don't have to worry about their stuff being destroyed. They don't need to cat-proof. Meanwhile, rabbit owners have it the opposite way. We always have to worry about rabbits being destructive. Perhaps in terms of personality and level of how interesting they are, rabbits aren't that different from typical house pets. Sometimes rabbits have to go through hardship in order to achieve a fulfilling life. Sometimes they may need to go through home to home in order to eventually achieve that kind of life. But as long as a rabbit eventually gets a good home and a happy ending, that is what truly matters. Perhaps in some ways, rabbits being underrated is a good thing because it takes a very special person to make the commitment of having a rabbit, and rabbits having a good home is very important. And most people just aren't willing to make that commitment. And this is why a lot of rabbit owners can relate to each other, because if someone is willing to make such a big commitment, wouldn't it make sense for most rabbit owners to be compassionate and overall nice, or at least decent people? Of course, you can be a good person and still not be able to make the commitment, but the rabbit community is quite small compared to other animal communities on social media. Think about my channel, for example. If I was a dog or a cat channel, I would probably have way more viewership than I currently have. But it isn't about the views for me, it is about the message, and even if my videos aren't always educational about rabbits in general, and more about Sandy's personality, just me having a rabbit helps me do the right thing, which is providing a rabbit a good home and helps encourage others to do the same. And also, making rabbit videos is what I enjoy doing. I value the comments and community. Of course, everyone does YouTube videos for views. What would be the point in making videos if it wasn't for viewership to some extent? But I would say, again, I care more about the community aspect, but that isn't to say that I don't care about viewership at all. And even if viewership on rabbit content may not be high as viewership would be on content based on other animals, the amount of viewership can be representative of how many people either take care of rabbits well or are at least willing to hear and know about proper ways to take care of rabbits, even if they aren't willing to make the commitment, which is a good thing by default, because it helps them tell other people. And even if my more personalized videos about Sandy may not get as much viewership as my videos about rabbits in general, it still helps establish the encouragement of a community of people that are doing the right thing and making the commitment that most people aren't willing to make. Anyway, if you can make the commitment of taking care of a rabbit and take care of your rabbit well, just remember that you are the reason your rabbit is living a good life today when they would have otherwise been abandoned or miserable in an enclosed space. So be proud of yourself if you are doing the right thing in this scenario, as you are making the commitment that most people don't make. I am expecting most people who watch this video all the way through to be rabbit owners themselves. However, if you watch this video the whole way through and you don't have a rabbit yourself, please let me know why you watched all the way through. I am curious. And I know there can be a variety of reasons why you may watch rabbit videos but not have a rabbit yourself. But again, I am just curious, so please let me know. It could help create productive conversation regarding rabbit care. Thank you for watching this video, and bye.